Hold up, you don't put that in your food, do you?
Ingredients, I never wanted to eat one again. The chicken on the Chick-fil-A sandwich is loaded with MSG.
The racist myth about MSG. MSG has been demonized in Chinese food.
What is MSG? In today's video, I'll be explaining what MSG is and the controversy behind it. MSG is a flavor enhancer that has been used in cooking for over a century. It works by boosting the umami taste, which is the savory, mouth-watering flavor in foods. MSG was first isolated from seaweed in 1908 by a Japanese scientist named Hikuni Ikeda, making the food additive very popular in Asian cuisines. MSG quickly spread to all over the world and began to spark questions of, is it truly safe for consumption? In the 1960s, a letter was published in the medical journal describing something called Chinese restaurant syndrome, where a man claimed he felt sick after eating at Chinese restaurants. He mentioned symptoms like headaches, sweating, and chest pain. Even though this letter wasn't scientific evidence, it was more just an opinion, suddenly MSG was branded as dangerous, and people weren't sure if they should continue to eat it for its great taste or remove it from their diets because they think it could possibly make them sick. First, we need to dive into what MSG actually is. MSG is a mixture of sodium, which is an essential part of our diet, and glutamate, which is a common amino acid found in plants and animal proteins. The umami taste is created in foods when we cook or ferment certain things, breaking down the proteins and releasing amino acids such as glutamate. But MSG was created when science found that there can be a shortcut by isolating high quantities of glutamate and combining them with sodium. Now that we know the science and background behind the additive, we can dive into the question of, is MSG safe to consume or does it pose health risks? Today, there is still a stigma around MSG, and some people swear that they feel weird after eating it, while others, especially chefs and food scientists, argue that MSG makes food delicious without any downside. So who is correct? If we look at a study called A Review of the Alleged Health Hazards of Monosodium Glutamate, published by the National Library of Medicine, we can find an answer. Scientists created an investigation between the association of MSG intake and hypertension and its impact on metabolic health indicators in Thai adults. This was an observational human population study based on the results of multiple dietary intake surveys and healthfulness assessments. Data was collected from 349 Thai participants. These participants had their dietary MSG intake assessed using food frequency questionnaires. Their blood pressure measurements were taken in order to diagnose hypertension, and their BMI, lipid profiles, blood glucose, and more were taken to assess metabolic status. The results found that there was a relation between the higher the MSG intake, the more significant the association with an increased risk of hypertension, suggesting that MSG could actually elevate blood pressure. But was found was that people with higher MSG consumption actually also have better metabolic profiles, suggesting that it improves glucose regulation. The study suggests that MSG might contribute to hypertension through means of sodium intake and blood pressure, but there can actually be potential metabolic benefits. So is MSG bad for your health? The answer is actually no. The reason is that our bodies actually produce glutamate naturally every day. It's also found in healthy foods like tomatoes, Parmesan cheese, and mushrooms. So when you eat MSG, your body doesn't treat it differently than the glutamate it already uses. With this information and many other scientists' clinical trials and researchers setting up double-blind studies, meaning neither participants nor the researchers knew who was getting MSG and who wasn't, what they found was pretty clear. For the vast majority of people, MSG doesn't cause symptoms. People who thought they were sensitive to MSG reported symptoms whether or not they had MSG or a placebo. In other words, the belief that MSG makes people sick was stronger than the actual physical reaction. Some individuals may consume MSG and feel symptoms of sickness, but it may be for other reasons other than what they have considered. For example, many foods that contain MSG are highly processed. For example, takeout food is high in sodium, and sodium can cause symptoms like headaches, swelling, and high blood pressure. So people may blame MSG when it could just be the overall salt content in the food. Additionally, large portion sizes can leave people feeling heavy after eating.
Online that apparently gives you insane portions of food for only $14.
So in conclusion, when some people feel bad after eating MSG containing foods, there's a very high possibility that the real issue is the amount of sodium or overconsumption and not MSG.